מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא יחסר, ונודע שירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן, נגד צוררי, דשנת ורשם ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבת בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
As Kenner Schiffman began our service today by chanting Psalm 23 in the Hebrew, I ask you to join with me in the words of Psalm 23 in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We gather here this morning to remember with great love Toby Greenwald, a beloved daughter, a beloved sister, a beloved mother, grandmother, aunt, and friend. Our Bible teaches, L'kol zaman ve'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven. A time for planting and a time for reaping, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for loving, a time for hating, a time for embracing and a time for refraining, a time for laughing, a time for weeping, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking, a time for silence, a time for seeking, and a time for losing. In our Jewish tradition, every single year we read the Torah, and we rejoice at its end, even though the final section details the death of our leader, Moses. Upon its completion, we joyously return to its beginning and start to read the Torah. Judaism teaches that our lives are like a book. Our actions and words are recorded. This past weekend, our beloved Toby's book was finished. It's very hard to say goodbye, and yet we can each continue to write the chapters that lay unfinished. The rabbis imagine Moses crying while writing those final chapters telling of his death, and so it is for us today. Though Toby's book is sealed with our tears, we must rejoice because we now have the opportunity to share her life from the beginning, her extraordinary, brave, and courageous life. Toby has departed from this world. She leaves us with a good name and in peace, and she leaves this family in mourning. Her children, Amy and Michael and Matthew, the diamonds in her crown, her grandchildren, Abby and Joshua, Zachary, Hannah, and Lexi, her brothers Jeffrey and Mark and Evelyn. And Toby now joins her parents of blessed memory, Abraham and Renee, in heaven. We have several family tributes, and first her daughter Amy has a special reading to share.
You were there when we took our first steps and went unsteadily across the floor. You pushed and prodded, encouraged and guided until our steps took us out the door. You worry now, are they okay? Is there more you could have done? As we walk the paths of our unknown, you wonder, where have my children gone? Where we are is where you have led us. With your special love, you've shown us a way to believe in ourselves and the decisions we make. Taking on the challenge of life day to day, and where we go, you can be sure in spirit you shall never be alone. For where you are is what matters to us, because to us that will always be our home. I love you, Mommy.
Going to call up Toby's granddaughter, Abby.
A letter from my heart. Dear Grandma Toby, you are very important to me, and the love and memories we shared will be everlasting. You were always there for me, even though we were a great distance apart. As I think back all these years later, all these rush of memories and fun times I had with you are coming back to me. I remember when I was younger, we would lay next to each other with your back facing me, and I would draw or write something on your back, and you'll have to guess what I drew or wrote. You mostly got it right, because I thought I was really clever just writing I love you over and over again. But you got it every time. You got it right when you came to Cleveland for my birth and stayed for about a week and helped my parents with learning the ropes of parenthood. The same guidance was given to me when we would talk about all different topics in life, including the big decision of dancing or ice skating, two sports I really loved but couldn't let go of just one. I had to make a decision, and you listened to me without any judgment. That's what I love most about you. You are a great listener, and that was really important to me. Although I love our deep and depth talks, it didn't end there. You were always up for learning and playing card games, no matter how silly they were. The silliness continued on through your comedic performances, which you used props such as a pink bobbed wig and umbrella. At the time, I was just a little bit too young to understand the jokes, but seeing how you interacted with the audience was amazing to watch. When I got more into exploring my Jewish identity and getting more serious about it, you openly shared your path through Judaism. I admire how much you were involved in your synagogue and how important it was to be bat mitzvahed as an adult. I had the pleasure of seeing you at this joyous occasion. Though you were not able to make it to my bat mitzvah because you were fighting the most scariest thing, breast cancer, and you won. Even when the cancer came back in your pancreas, you fought even harder by going through a difficult and risky surgery that you didn't allow to define your life. I knew you were proud of me by your generosity of giving me my first experience of going to Disney World with my family as a bat mitzvah present. As I go on to my next chapter of life, you have given me the strength and dedication to conquer all challenges that life brings. I'll strive to follow your footprints in life. You are my role model, holding the key to my heart. Love, Abby.
Now we call up Toby's brother, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Rabbi. Just a couple thoughts about Toby. She's historical figure in a way. We have generations that are passing, as everyone knows here. She was born in she was conceived a year and a half after World War II ended by parents who survived by escaping the Nazis. And all of her grandparents had been murdered by the Nazis. But her spirit was great, and she had a congenital orthopedic problem. The family made it to, she was born into a displaced persons camp run by the U.S. Army outside of Essen, Germany. She had a surgery there at age 2, but she was a happy child. She came to America through Ellis Island at age 4, very excited. Her languages were German and Yiddish, fluent German, which she forgot, interestingly. And she had more orthopedic experiences, but still, when she was at the Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital, when it was still out in South Euclid, she did something extraordinary, and it reflects her spirit and her intelligence. She got into the nurses' station, and the children there mostly had polio, rheumatic fever, and they were in a longer-term convalescence. And Toby had another round of orthopedic surgeries, and they saw Frankie Avalon was coming to Cleveland. This is 57. And they called, and he came to Rainbow. And Toby started a tradition. I remember many acts would visit, including there's a big article in the Plain Dealer in '66 or so about the Hollies went to Rainbow. And for those who are not aware of pop groups, that included Graham Nash, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. So, to Amy, Matthew, Abby, and Josh, your mother essentially embodied kindness. And your immediate loss is terrific. It's terrible. It's difficult. And I encourage you to grieve fully. And it's the only way to deal with this. But in a larger sense, Toby embodied kindness. I never heard my sister utter a single profanity. I never saw, and we lived together in a very small house in East Cleveland. She never lost her temper. She was well-read. She was thoughtful. She was extraordinary. And she was of a different era, and on certain things, getting married at 19, and coming out of undergrad, but then she did eventually finish undergrad at John Carroll. She scored so highly on her test that she had a full scholarship there. She kept trying to improve her life by improving your lives. And she, at age 40, she changed her domestic relations circumstances. At age 50, it was time for her to move to D.C. But she loved you more than she loved herself. And you carry in you, Toby, your concept, your feeling of being a human being is to have an unconditionally loving, affectionate, caring mother and grandmother. And she'll always be with you because she shaped your development in that respect. She's a role model par excellence. And she could have fun. When Elvis came to Cleveland, certain people, including the rabbi, wouldn't remember this, but others do remember. He stayed at the Alcazar Hotel in Cleveland Heights, and there was Toby standing outside She wasn't in the hospital then with the other teenage girls because it was Elvis. She didn't care about the Beatles, but she cared about Elvis. And then she lost her affinity for Elvis, but she remembered that she did that. The depth of Toby's love is reflected in a somewhat difficult anecdote. I learned yesterday that in some notes, Toby actually wanted to be cremated and her ashes sprinkled on our father's grave. That's because she loved her father. She loved unqualifiedly, unconditionally. She cared for him. She venerated him. That was the type of person she was. And he was a kind man, and like Toby, really free from any vices. The only time I heard him utter profanity was in Yiddish when biography program would come on, and the biography was of Himmler or Göring, and then it came out, and rightly so. That he didn't shoot the TV was an act of restraint, and for which I remain appreciative. But that's the only kind of thing that would rile him up, and Toby could not be really riled up. But that love, that unity, acts of love, kindness, small and large. When she was, Amy was born and Toby was at home for a while. Actually, when our father had pancreatic cancer, Toby worked at Mount Sinai, visited him every day, of course, and further bonding, which is really what she wanted growing up, was to bond with our father. And then Mark and I came along and disrupted her experience, her domestic experience then. But everyone here is, Matthew, Amy, Josh, Abby, my brother Mark, all reflective. There's not a mean bone in anyone's body, and that kindness marks the family. And the older I get, the more I appreciate that. So, Toby would type up some of my papers, and she had an electric typewriter, which was a big deal in the early 70s. And it was good when she saw that I was acing out undergrad. She felt freer to go, and she aced out John Carroll without a problem. So, in a way, all I could do is, I feel the loss, of course, but I have to celebrate that Toby's brought such love and kindness into the formation of your hearts. She adored the grandchildren, Josh and Abby, beyond words, as she saw the bridge to the future. And her love for you was absolutely unconditional, unqualified. And, we had a lot of conversations, particularly after that surgery in 2018. And she kept talking about you. She loves you. And that love, regardless that she's here, that love always exists. And that love will be with you. And so that's why I'm just going to close with a poem or two. No, actually some lines from a poet everyone knows. So I think, to me, Toby's present in you. And I miss her being here, but, and there's no buts about that. She's with you in your heart. She's your character, the love. So I saw this the other day, and I thought it was somewhat applicable. Death lies on her like an untimely frost upon the sweetest flower of the field. And death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath hath no power yet upon thy beauty. And this is to Toby. Thou art not conquered, Beauty's ensign is crimson in thy lips and in thy cheeks, and death's pale flag is not advanced there. Meaning she's alive in you and will always be alive in you. And your children, should you have children, and so on. And we will never see her like again. Thank you.
Incredibly strong and resilient, Toby didn't let life's challenges stop her, ever. She was lovely, so full of spunk, fighting till the end, so brave and courageous. She was just a simply sweet and kind person, Ogotonashoma. She lived an exemplary life, always remaining positive and optimistic with a real zest for life. With all of her physical and other issues that she dealt with throughout the years, she had the greatest laugh, and in fact she could make you laugh. Though she had countless hip procedures starting from infancy, she was a ballroom dancer. She made a conscious choice that nothing would stop her, and that her children and grandchildren were the most important things in her life. 12 years ago, Toby began planning her own funeral to make sure that the children didn't have that burden, and she wrote this note, which was tucked into her funeral plans. I'm quoting Toby, quote, "I want my family to know that I love them very much. I wish I could have given them more open affection than I have. I hope they will live content and decent lives, and that they may think of me on occasion, and know that if there was something beyond the grave, that I will be watching over them. I can't leave you much wealth or property, but I hope that I've given you something more lasting. To Abby and Joshua, you are the light of my life. If you accomplish nothing else in life, know that you have accomplished that much for me. All the love I can possibly have. Signed, Mom, Grandma Toby." As you heard, she was born in the Wessler, Germany, DP camp outside of Essen, Germany, to Holocaust survivors, Avram from Lvov and Renee from outside of Kiev. Born with hip issues, she had struggles walking, but never let it stop her. The family immigrated to the States when Toby was only 4 years old, traveling to America in 1951 by boat, where she had a lot of fun on the boat. Her father was a tailor and hoped to end up in the garment district in New York, but the family was sent to the second largest district in America, Cleveland, Ohio. First living in a coal-burning apartment on Kinsman and 116th, then 118th and Union, and then settling on Mont Avenue in East Cleveland. As you heard, Toby had a very special connection with her father. You see, Abraham's sewing machine was kept in Toby's room, and he would work nights on that machine, and they'd just be together and talk together. In the States, her two brothers were born. She was a good big sister who helped look after her brothers, taking them to the beaches in the summers with all the greeners. Toby learned English quickly during her time in the hospitals and rehab centers when the doctors worked on her legs and hips. Despite all of her adversity, she graduated from Shaw High School and began studying at Kent. You heard, in high school, Toby participated in the National Forensic League competitions, oftentimes bringing home many awards. She didn't finish college. After only 1 year, she returned home, got married, and began to start the family. Only later would she go back to school when the kids were little. Toby began working for the government, a long career that spread across several departments, and would later take her to move to Washington, D.C., beginning with the IRS, the Department of Justice and Bankruptcy, and to advance her career, she moved to Arlington, Virginia, working for the DEA, retiring 10 years ago and then using her counseling degree from Cleveland State to become a drug and alcohol counselor. In Arlington, Virginia, Toby had a big circle of friends, many from her synagogue Kol Ami, where she was very active and volunteered regularly. An avid Maj player all of her life. She loved to read. She was a swimmer, a big dancer, a terrible cook, and very proud of it. Toby was funny. In fact, she became a stand-up comedian. She did the nursing home circuit in Virginia, entertaining all the residents, and she won the Miss Senior Arlington, Virginia pageant, a talent competition. She was a world traveler with Israel and cruises as her favorites. Toby lived for family. She was a private person with that small circle of friends in Virginia, but for her, family was everything. She loved being a mom. She loved Amy and Matt so much. When she made the difficult choice of divorce and raise you as a single mom with 2 teenage children, she was so amazing. She was always there, single-handedly providing a good life for the 2 of you. Never wanting, she put you through college without any loans because she had a plan. She was brilliant, thoughtful, good, and forgiving. She never wanted to be a burden, and she provided you both with security and protection till the end. Her most important and valued position was that as grandmother, Grandma Toby, and she was simply the best. You made her so proud. You were the reason that she fought on and danced on and laughed on. Abby and Josh, you were her everything. And though Zachary, Hannah, and Lexi were so much further away from her and she saw them much less, she still loved them so much. Abby, you told me Grandma Toby was an amazing listener. You loved talking together, that she wanted to be such a big part of your life. She wanted to know about school and skating. And when you were together, you'd always play games, work on puzzles, go out to eat at her favorite Mediterranean restaurant. A visit always included a trip to the library where you'll take out books that you'd read to each other, and then movies that you'd watch together in her bed. And Josh, when Grandma Toby was here in Cleveland just a few months ago for your bar mitzvah, she was beaming, so proud of you, how you've grown up. And even though she was in so much pain, she didn't let it stop her or didn't show it at all, because you put such a big smile on her face. You are her pride and joy. The last few months have been very difficult, and as her health declined, Matt, you remained by Mom's side, caring for her. She basically went into a coma, and yet when Amy and Mike came in with the grandkids, somehow, amazingly, Toby woke up. And for those 4 days together, she was present and alert, active and engaged. She loved those last few days with all of you together. What a gift to have, to always remember. Toby will be missed by family and friends. She's returned home in peace. May her name always bring blessings, and we say, Amen. We'll rise now as Cantor Schiffman chants the memorial prayer.
אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה. במעלות הקדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, אל נשמת טובה בת אברהם ורעיה, שלחה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. הענב בעל הרחמים, אז תראה בסדק כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of our beloved Toby Greenwald, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul merit the reward of living a life filled with righteousness and kindness. May she be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. Following the service, the burial will continue on at Zion Cemetery, and then following the burial, the family will receive friends at the home of Helen Berman, Mike's mom, 2095 Marshfield Road in Mayfield Heights, immediately following burial until 4:30 this afternoon, and then the family will resume Shiva tonight from 6:30 to 8:30. We'll have an evening minyan service at 7 p.m. The family's also sitting tomorrow, Thursday, from 1 to 4. Those who'd like to contribute in memory of Toby can do so to the American Cancer Society.